Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Frantage Friday. We're going to start by stamping on transparency. I know the transparency is very hard to see here, but we're going to stamp on it using StazOn ink. And the first step when you're using white StazOn is to go ahead and re-ink the pad. It comes with a re-inker, and I'm just going to use the plastic lid cap that comes with it to squeegee the ink into the pad. The next step is to go ahead and ink up our stamp. I'm using a giant snowflake stamp from Stampendous. It's really beautiful, lots of detail. And instead of pressing my stamp into my rubber, I actually do it the opposite way because I put my fingers in the ink all the time. I have a little bit more control when I go across the stamp like this. And I'm just making sure it's generously covered with ink and that I didn't miss any spots. And when it's fully done, then I'll flip it over. Transparency is slick, so make sure you have a steady hand. You're going to want to press straight down, and then you're going to want to press straight back up again. And then you'll just re-ink your stamp and make other designs accordingly. StazOn dries almost instantly, but you're going to want to be careful with this and give this a little bit of extra drying time just because the transparency is not porous and it's going to need to be somewhere where it can sit still and let the ink dry. You also can't hurry it up with a heat gun because you'll melt your transparency. That might sound like a duh moment, but I've done that before. So let's put this aside to dry. Okay, for this next part, we're going to stamp our main image, which is going to be a really gorgeous Christmas tree from Stampendous. And I'm using regular white paper, and I'm going to ink up my stamp with VersaFine ink from Sue Inco, and this is in black. I can't show you on camera because my heat gun doesn't work this far, but I'm going to cover this with embossing powder and I'm going to heat set it so that we have a nice raised emboss edge to help us stay in the lines for our watercoloring. Okay, first of all, I sped up the video because I didn't think anyone wanted to watch me paint for 9 minutes. But here's what's happening. Take some Ranger Distress ink. I'm using peeled paint, and go ahead and stamp it directly from the ink pad straight on your Ranger craft mat. And mix into that a dollop of liquid pearls. Any brand, I don't think it matters. I used one by Viva, a Viva Pearl Pen. And mix that together with your paintbrush and just a tiny bit of water. I actually made a little bit of water on the side of the craft mat. And mix it together and then paint. The embossing keeps the paint from bleeding into other areas and helps you stay in control. And the pearl ink makes this unbelievable sheen and luminescence within the peeled paint. It doesn't really translate well to the camera, but it's a really pretty gorgeous look. And you can just clean up your craft mat with a paper towel. And I'm going to repeat this exact same process with ink, pearl paint, and a little bit of water. I'm going to mix all of that together, and this time I'm using wild honey, and I'm going to use that to paint inside where the star is, and it gives it this really gorgeous sheen, and the colors don't bleed into each other because of the embossing. Now you should know these do take a little bit longer to dry than standard distress inks, but it's not really very long at all. You shouldn't really notice a difference, and if you want to hit this with a heat gun, you absolutely can, and it won't affect how it dries. Now I'm going to do the same thing a third time, and that'll be the last bit of it. This time I'm going to use fire brick and the pearl paint and a little bit of water to do the trim around the snowflake, and then I'm going to use a little bit of walnut stain with no pearl in it at all, just to do the bottom of the tree to give it a little bit of color punch. And the end effect, like I said, is very shimmery and very beautiful. And you can see how completely easy and fast that is, and you stay right. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to use some silver crushed glass glitter from Stampendous. It's kind of a chunky, thick glitter, and while it's silver, it's got some casts of gold in it, and it was really pretty. It does a great job of catching the light. And I'm just going to highlight the stars and some lines on the Christmas tree and some other places that I think need some extra attention with my handy dandy 2A glue pen. And the nice thing about this is, because we've already embossed it, we're staying right in the lines. The glue's not going to shift, and the glitter's only going to stick where we want it to. And I'm just going to pick a couple of small accent spots and then just dump my glitter on top. And, you know, it's as simple as that. I like to give it a second or two after, after coating it to let it dry. And then I just tap it off. And that's, you know, all there is to it. And you can see here how sparkly this is. It's really, you know, nice stuff. And then I just pat it onto a piece of paper so that I can bend it back into the bottle. Assembling our card is easy. I'm going to start by taking the transparency and inky side up. I'm going to strategically place glue dots behind every snowflake. I'm going to try and go where the ink is heaviest so that the glue won't show. And then I'm going to line up my card base, which was just a 5.5 by 4.25 piece of cardstock. And I'm going to line that up with the center so that the transparency sticks to the back. And I'm going to kind of smush that in there so that those glue dots catch. Now before I can close the card, I need to add my main image. And I'm going to just put some regular, you know, glue or tape runner, whatever you want. Any kind of adhesive will work. You could use, wouldn't use pop dots here only because the dimension isn't going to show once the transparency sticks closed. And I'm just going to eyeball this and line this up as best I can. And once I get it into position, I'll be ready to close the card. And you want to make sure that you're getting the edge flush because it's already stuck on the back. But because the ink is on the inside, it won't scratch when you mail it. And there you go. It's beautiful. I wish you could see the shimmer on here. I'm going to cut off any overhang that from the transparency. It doesn't cut well in my paper trimmer. I don't know if you have the same problem. And then I'm just going to go back with a little bit of bling and add some crystals to the center of some of the snowflakes and to some of the swirls. Anywhere I think the adhesive might be showing through. This is a card with an awful lot of sparkle, from the pearlescent paint to the gloss on the transparency to the bling and the glitter. It's perfect for the holidays. So I hope you enjoyed this and have a very happy holiday.